Remember Agent Smith? Oh, I remember Agent Smith.
Remember when he was the one? I love.
This is The Shit Take. Join me, Stellaby, and my co-host Arrow for the win as we cover everything from entertainment to current events. We hope to normalize the differing of opinions and keep an open attitude toward anyone who would like to share theirs. If you enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe. Now let's stoke some flames.
But unfortunately, for every Spider-Man No Way Home, we're gonna get the opposite of that, and that's definitely The Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah. So whenever I first turned this movie on, I remember turning to my girlfriend and I said, "All right, so I know what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for consistency. I'm looking for that feeling, that Matrix feeling. I wanted to be brought back into the Matrix, not experience the Matrix again. No, I want, because that's what it is, right? It's they're introducing you to the Matrix, and I wanted to be brought back into the Matrix to experience it the way Neo did, if you will, right? And that is not what I got. From like the very beginning, when of course they're replaying the modal, and of course it's the story where Trinity's being the cops are going up the stairs and they're trying to catch Trinity and all that, right? And the agents first appear. They say something to one of the agents, the cop does, and one of the agents like responds in a somewhat peeved manner, and I was like, I don't remember the agents being very quick to be irritated. They're programs.
They weren't emotional. Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? They're programs. So just immediately right off the bat, I thought, okay, well, it ended up being the modal itself was designed by Neo within the context of the Matrix. So, of course, there's that. It's him actually programming it. Whatever.
Thomas Anderson.
But, yeah, Thomas Anderson. But I think that was a really good, I thought that moment, right? After that, whenever they start showing the differences and the fact that, it's actually Neo creating the modal, of course, it's not going to be just the same as before. But I still think that held true. My confusion at that one moment, that small moment where this agent was just not an agent, seemed completely off, stuck with me throughout the entire movie. And I didn't let it affect me throughout the entire movie, but it's something that kept returning to me from what I was being presented. The agent wasn't an agent, and I feel like this was not a true representation of a Matrix movie. I hope that's fair to say.
It is unabashedly fair to say, because it was like the same freaking feeling, man. Like it was a huge advertisement for Warner Brothers. They even said it themselves. They say it in the movie. It was just a twisted contortion of an idea that they had in the now, not in the then, but they want to pretend like it was that, and then say like, oh, this is literally a message we're trying to send you. This is literally a platform piece. This is literally an idea that we are trying to convey to the audience that you don't understand, that we're going to... Dude, they talk down to you. Like, yes. They talk down to you, and they think
man.
It was just ridiculous, man. Like I
think
it's fair to say it was probably 30% flashbacks.
I wouldn't say 30%. I'd say maybe 15 to 20. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that me personally, that was the number I came up with. It's like 15, 20. Fucking 3% flashbacks is too much. Yeah. So even if it's 30, if it's 20, if it's 15, all of those numbers are far beyond what it should have been. Like
we already know.
You are literally sitting here telling us what's happening throughout the first 2-3 movies. We've seen them. If I want to, I'll go watch those fucking movies. You don't have to explain the story to me. Trust me, I get that it was your clever decision to do so. I get that was your idea. I'm saying it was a shitty idea. Like, just because it was clever in your own mind or your team thought it was clever doesn't make it a good idea. In this instance, to me personally, I thought it was a pretty shitty idea. I sat there every single time that it showed a flashback, I made a note in my phone because I wasn't missing anything. I made notes throughout the entire movie, and luckily, you gave me every single opportunity to make a note in my phone without missing anything on screen. And that seems like a shitty designed movie. Like, there were so many ideas within the context of the movie itself. There's so many things that was shown, including like Io, right? Because Io, the first time they showed Io, I was like, holy shit, a full-fledged out city. Cool. Hopefully we get to experience that. Nope.
Yeah.
Fucking nothing.
There's a botany center.
Dude, like,
here's what we think a strawberry tastes like. Oh, like okay, like, it's like,
dude, like,
even when they explained that was so dumb, man. We took what the machine's algorithm designed and reverse engineered DNA to make a strawberry.
yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah.
That's what you did with your time? Okay, like.
Yeah, I think I texted you. Like, it was at the. I
Yes.
definitely made a note of it because I have it right here.
Yeah.
At the 1 hour 40-minute mark, I stopped. We paused it, right? Because one of us got up to take a drink, right? Because we watched it on HBO. Got up to get a drink, and so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, what's happened so far within the story? And at the 1 hour and 40-minute mark, all that had happened was they pulled Neo out of the Matrix, and they had decided to go and get Trinity. And I was like, I feel like this has been a waste of time. The story, like, there's so much exposition. I don't know what you're setting up, because you set up like the machine war, you set up the sentient machines, like you set up all this different shit, but you don't elaborate on any of it, none of it. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Let's just blow past it, right? Like, basically,
Right?
that's what the whole movie was. But it was over the course of 2.5 hours. How much shit can you blow by and still not have any processed information? It's ridiculous. Very similar to Stellaby. I started the movie after him, and I did watch it at home. And after everything, I turn to my roommate and I say, you know, don't feel like I missed out on anything by not seeing this in theaters.
Yes.
It was at a point where we also paused the movie, you know, got up, got a drink, whatever. He's like, man, I feel like we've been watching for at least like 1.5 hours. And I said, honestly, I feel like it hasn't even been an hour, but I'm just like so bored with what this movie is trying to produce to us. We paused the movie and it was 53 minutes. I was like, man, dude, we still got so much going on, and there was no substance whatsoever. Like, they're trying to like throw these, you know, flashbacks and like in metaverse Matrix jokes at you, like, oh, bullet time, oh, Trinity the One, oh man, the ultimate trilogy, but now we want another one because marketing. But they're saying this in the movie, like literally at you, like it's not a tongue-in-cheek joke, it's not a reference, quick little wink to the audience. It's literally saying like, oh, this is what this is a reference to that. Is that what you thought whenever you saw that? Oh my god, she looks just like, you know, Trinity. Is that what you're thinking whenever you programmed the game? Yada yada yada. Oh, the White Rabbit, like that's why I got this tattoo. And it's just like, oh my god, like it was just like it was nauseating, man. Like I felt like
they were tooting their own horn the entire time. That's what it felt like to me. Is that someone made the conscious decision to sit there and say, let's remind the audience how cool the Matrix was this entire movie. And
I
God
know,
damn it, dude, it got so fucking tiring.
And you know this about me. The Matrix is literally my favorite fucking movie. I was nothing but off the walls excited for this when it was announced, and it was supposed to be even before John Wick 4 got pushed to next year, like 2023 now. They were supposed to be on the same day. It was going to be like a double Keanu Reeves day. And then, you know, COVID happened, yada yada, stuff got pushed, but like more was coming to watch this movie. Like the more the hype levels were rising, and then just immediately deflate while I'm watching this. It was terrible, man. Like no actor's performance was like elevated. Nothing was even holding the attention. And then they just like, you know, they changed, you know, certain characters, actors, and they're kind of just like, oh, don't worry, this is like the same thing but better. And it wasn't. Like it was worse, and it was just like, there's no really cohesive story to it, and it was a trudge the entire time. Like it was just like, oh, it's finally done. Like thank God.
So Neo made the video game, right?
Yeah.
And he was resurrected by the machines. They literally rebuild him. They implant his consciousness. And so like what that means to me, right, is that machines are more in tune with human consciousness than humans are. Right? Because
Ghost in the Shell, the ghost in the machine, man.
For sure,
absolutely,
right? So if they are so perfect, right, and they can get everything right, well then why wasn't Morpheus the same fucking Morpheus? Why was it just a completely brand new person? They explained that in the movie. Of course, they say that it was more of a Morpheus mix with Agent Smith kind of thing. So I can understand that for sure, but it was really more of an excuse to not get Lawrence Fishburne to come back for the movie, I'm sure.
Which he was never told about, which is ridiculous. He had to like see after they announced it, and he's just
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I would have done
Yeah,
it."
they
Like,
never
so
asked
that's
me.
definitely,
I think that's what he said, right?
yeah, like that's ridiculous. That's one of his most beloved roles. And see, it's funny that you mentioned the whole resurrection thing because that was the question, that they try to jam in the audience's brain from even the first movie. It's just like, what is the Matrix? The Matrix was the program freeing themselves. Matrix Reloaded, less of a coherent question. The Matrix Revolutions, man versus machine, the revolution, they actually fought it out. And so within the fourth movie, I was asking myself, what does it mean, Matrix Resurrections? Like, what is
Yeah.
it? Is it a literal resurrection? Is it a different one? Because even from the first trilogy, they mentioned that the program's been reset 7 times. That Keanu Reeves' Neo was
Yeah.
like the latest incarnation of the one. So that's what I thought. I was like, is it really going to be them? Is it going to be some other weird thinly veiled? Uh, the phrase constantly revealed in this fucking movie was, oh, it's a non-binary way of thinking. It's not binary. So I was just like, is it going to be a non-binary resurrection? But no, it was literally synthetic organ tissue. Their bodies, the
Yeah.
machines rebuilt them, and then, like you said, they uploaded their consciousness again, complete with his memories and everything up to the point where he died.
Yeah.
Don't
And
worry,
so-
because they show you that.
And so that begs so many questions, right? One of the ones for me is, yes, I know Neo's character is the character that breaks free. You know what I mean? I know that. I understand that. But if you're a machine who understands the human consciousness so well that you can implant it into different humans or rebuild humans, right? All that kind of stuff. Wouldn't you have a way of restricting them from, 1, breaking free, right? Or 2, even knowing who Trinity is? Right?
Yeah.
I understand where you're going with like, well, he had to have Trinity, so let's also bring Trinity back. I
Yeah,
understand that. I do. But it doesn't make sense. Like,
That's-
that was what was so good about the original Matrixes. It's matrices, whatever.
right, Matricide.
That was what was so good about them, is they followed a really strong, this is how computers work, kind of thing. And now it's like you're going extra computer. You're going beyond that of which is the limitations of a computer itself. Let's get on to the good. The good for me was Jonathan Groff.
You have
But he actually did a really decent job. They did a good job of mirroring, and again, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I did not like this part, but at least they made the attempt of making him. No, I can't even say that. Fuck, man, I didn't like that part at all. Whenever they're fighting down in the fucking basement and he literally does the punches, and I'm like,
yes,
again, you're just calling back to your original content.
exactly.
Like, it's so weird, dude.
Every part of this movie was just so disappointing to me, and the one thing I thought I was at least going to be able to like give props to was fight choreography. But the problem with that is it literally was just the same fight, so there was nothing new.
Yeah.
There was nothing innovative. It was literally just calling back a literal call out to what was already been done. Oh, I don't think in that didn't add anything new. There was no innovation. It wasn't refreshing. It was just like, okay, you're literally just doing the same things. It was almost just like combining all the elements of the
Yeah.
first 3 movies to the same thing.
And how did your special effects get worse?
Absolutely, like it was crazy. Like it was looked like it was degraded. It was like the weird, like blurry, like hammer fisting that he was doing. It was just like it looked so like this should be a compliment for the Matrix's its setting. It looked mechanical, and I definitely missed Hugo Weaving. Like there was no part of me that didn't miss him. And Groff said in an interview that he didn't want to imitate the way that he was holding himself or speaking as Smith, that he watched the way he fights so that he could be like, I guess, as merciless as him. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of people always like, oh, I'm gonna do my own interpretation, my own spin on it. You're literally a different actor doing it, so I mean, you're supposed to be portraying the same character, literally the same character. And I mean, don't even get me started how that makes sense, but it was just I don't know, man. Like it was it was good to a point. See, the whole thing with like Neil Patrick Harris, yes, the guy he always performs. Absolutely, have nothing to say against that negatively. It's just the character itself was so bad. Like the architect at least made sense in the original trilogy because it was just like, oh, this is literally, I've seen how the Matrix has been reset and done to this certain point. I've literally made it so that this confrontation between you and Smith is either going to end with me winning or them winning.
Yeah.
But the analyst is just like, yeah, like you said with the whole Trinity thing, is like, oh, you guys somehow harmonize and increase production of neurological synapses or some weird thing for like all of
Yeah.
humanity to be as docile. Basically, just calling out like people stuck to screens, saying how stupid humanity is to be behind a phone. But can't let you guys get too close because then you start to remember stuff. And
Yeah.
it's just like, why? Like you said, why even take that gamble? Because there's literally no other way that you could have done this. Like they literally were living in the same city, going to the same coffee shop every day. Like, how would they not see one another and eventually
Yeah.
interact? Like, it's like, oh, I've reset this so many times, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And then that leads me to my biggest gripe was the plot heavily relying on a time skip. Like, yes, obviously see what happened within the frame of, oh, Free City, Niobe being so old. Why even bring back
Oh my
Jada Pinkett
fucking
Smith at that
God,
point?
dude.
It's so
I
dumb. Like, that
fucking
whole
hated
subplot.
all of that. Like literally,
so
none of
ridiculous.
it made any. It didn't have any fucking like tie to what
No,
happened
no.
within the context of the story whatsoever.
Oh.
Nothing
And
at
then-
all.
And then they show you the Morpheus statue, which is supposed to be Lawrence Fishburne, and it just doesn't make sense. And like, okay, like we get it. It's like 20 years after the first movie. The 20-year time skip could have made at least a little bit of sense. They're like, no, it's 60 years later,
Yeah, 60
and now
years.
you're an old man, but you've only aged 20 years. Everyone else
Yeah,
sees
she
you
would
as
have
a
been
really
like
old man.
90.
Yeah, like
She'd
it
been like
didn't
fucking
make sense.
90 in a post-apocalyptic world where the age of person life expectancy is probably going to be fucking in the lowest numbers possible because of the polluted air, all that kind of
Exactly.
shit. She's 90 now, so she's the exception to that rule. Oh
Yeah.
my fucking God, dude. Like there are so many like small little baby things in this movie that just really bugged me. Like
They did it purposely. That's the problem.
I
This
know.
isn't like just
trust
like,
me, I
this is
know.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. But
And,
another one of the things that bugged me was whenever Morpheus showed up to try and get Neo, right? Neo recognizes Morpheus. Even the Morpheus he created. You know what
Yes.
I mean? He would understand who Morpheus is. So whenever Morpheus first shows up in the bathroom, right? And is trying to convince him to take the red or blue pill, whatever, he runs from him, right? And like the next scene, he finds Bugs. That what they call it, right?
Yeah,
Next scene, he finds Bugs, and
And
he's like so trusting of her, like
He's in the
immediately,
bunny.
but not
Yeah.
Morpheus, who he should recognize as somebody from his past, whether or not he actually recognizes him for who he is.
Yeah.
Does recognize him as somebody he understands to be alive or who has been in his past before. Like, go ahead.
May I interject? Because you just made a big, really, really strong point there. As you said, as somebody who should recognize. Because remember, everyone else, Neo looks like an old man. But these
Yeah.
people recognize him as what he looks like to the audience.
Yeah.
So is he not recognizing this Morpheus in the same way? Or the girl who literally just like, oh, you hacked my Modal.
Yeah.
That's you, right? Oh, but the White Rabbit. This is immediately going to make me trust you because it's a callback to the first fucking Matrix
That's
movie.
what I mean.
It's just like, my God, it's just so sloppy, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even just ham-fisted, but it's just like, it's insulting because it's like, dude, we already know this, but you're literally playing it up multiple times. And if it was once or twice, then fine. Like, I get it. I can jive with that. I can roll with those punches. But they're literally doing it like, like once or twice a minute.
It's funny.
Crazy.
It's funny because another example of that I did write down was, and I know this is a bit nitpicky, but then again, we're talking about a movie that's based within the context of a fucking computer program simulation. Neo, they showed the scene from the video game. They showed the scene, and it's basically real. It's real live action. Like that is the scene from the video game. So graphics within the context of his video game are fucking amazing, right?
Assuming it's VR, which I'm assuming that it was.
Right.
They said something about headsets.
So Neo, who mastered the graphical elements of game making to that point, whenever he's I forgot what it was that they proposed to him with code, right? But he was like, "What?" Like he couldn't accept the code, and you're just like, dude, you fucking made the greatest video game of all time with realism that nobody's ever seen before. Do you
Exactly.
understand what that means?
Within
You
the time frame
look
that
at
it
this
was
code
20 years
now,
ago.
and you're just like, "What? I don't understand." Well, you should understand it.
Even in the
should.
original Matrix, he's like a computer analyst. Like
Yeah,
now that you're putting him in
so
the mindset
much,
of a game
dude.
designer, why is it so hard for him to accept that reality?
Yeah.
Again, it's a Matrix joke, right? Because they don't accept reality.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous, man. Like from his lack of understanding of what his job is in this reality. Morpheus absolutely peacocking every damn scene. And don't get me wrong, Lawrence Fishburne, he had the shades of cranberries and blues in his suits.
Yeah.
It was never full on black. Stand out as a main character. We get it. But here, dude, like he was peacocking every damn suit from like canary yellow to like cranberry, champagne red.
Yeah, my girlfriend did not like the yellow suit, but I did. I like that mustard yellow.
The suits were ridiculous, man. And this entire personality was just so odd to me, and I was just like, my goodness, like.
There was another part.
It wasn't binary thoughts though. That's
no, definitely not. There was another part though that just again, right? Because I know the original Matrix trilogy, it did have a lot of issues when it came to like mistakes in the movies, but a lot of them were in this. There were a lot, and I noticed a few of them. One of them was there was the fighting going on with shit. It was Neo. He was in the Matrix, and they were fighting with the Merovingian, right? The Merv, and so
that's funny.
Neo is not bleeding within the simulation, but they show his face outside of the Matrix, and he's got blood coming down his face, and you're just like, it's not how it works.
It's supposed to be that scene, though, man.
Yeah.
Didn't you understand?
It's not how it works. It's supposed to be if he gets hurt in the fucking sim, he gets hurt in real life. If he's bleeding in the sim, he's bleeding in real life.
Can't
like,
tell the difference. They explained that rule he's like, what? How am I blood? How am I bleeding? Brain makes it real. Like they tell you that, and it's Morpheus's character who tells them that. How does nobody get it? It's so ridiculous. Like it literally does play the audience as dumb as sheep. Like, and they mention that too, right? They say it to the audience, you're sheeple. So it's just really insulting. And then the exiles, they're like, why are you shooting them? Everyone knows that exiles can't be killed by bullets. That was the whole point. In Matrix 2, when they start going away from gunplay, and it literally becomes about martial arts. Neo's pulling off weapons and stuff, hand-to-hand combat. And they even make a sense of that within the wardrobe's escalation through the movies. It becomes less about the leather coats and the dusters, and it becomes more about the Chinese high-collared, almost a dress suit. That's the martial artist in him. But in here, it does just again completely 180s that. It gets more ridiculous with the suits and the heavily layered and everything's cyberpunked out, and it's just so. It's ridiculous, man. It's just insulting. And then even you got freaking Hawaiian shirt Agent Smith coming to play here with his freaking Oakleys and everything, and it's just.
There were a couple things that I did like.
Pop up the Ray-Bans.
The couple things that I did like was the sentient machines. I did like the way they handled Morpheus out of the Matrix, basically turning these only programs into real world, living things through nanomachines or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That was really cool. Did not go anywhere with it, right? Didn't really touch on it too much. I'm assuming that's something down the line. Unfortunately, I liked.
If that doesn't scream sequel bait, then I don't know what does, man.
I liked Io. They just didn't fucking show you anything. Literally, all they did was go to Io, pretend to lock up Neo, and then they came and took him and left.
Literally, as soon as he walked in there, and I was like, is this what constitutes as a fucking prison cell in the year 20 whatever? Because that was so ridiculously swanky for a prison cell. He was like, oh, she even gave you the best view in the city. I was like, why would she do that unless she knew he was gonna escape? That's so dumb.
Yeah.
Apparently, those little micro machines that constructed Morpheus can go anywhere, because it literally was out of a storm drain, and then you see in the machine city, it's just popping up. So it's just all these little teasers of what could have been cool things ultimately led nowhere, and then just didn't make sense even in the context of what it was showed.
Exactly. And I did right whenever they first visit Jada Pinkett Smith or Niobe, the thing I wrote down was, what is this movie about? What is this movie about? Is it literally just getting Neo and Trinity out of the Matrix? If so, my understanding was it was Neo's terms. The deal he made with the machines was Neo's terms. Who can really be upset about that?
Yeah.
Right? That was him saying, okay, leave everybody alone, and you can take me.
Yeah. And she mentions, oh, well, that's why Zion failed, because they just didn't want to adapt or something like that. I was just like, dude, if you're expecting the machines to honor your deal, why are you so... what was the point of him sacrificing it if you're still going to be just as hostile as before?
Yeah.
The people who are free were free. Even like they said, oh, the machines didn't even like the way the machines were handling it, so they had like their own little machine civil war, and it's just like
Yeah.
it's like everything that you were led to understand between the first 3 movies,
It's no
just
longer the
completely
case.
oh, they just completely ignore it, and they're like, well, that's not how it works because it's binary thought. This is non-binary,
Yeah.
and
The action was decent. Like I can't even say much about it because it was worse than before. But dude, there's some really bad wire work. Like the miscues on like timing between the choreography itself and like just believability in general. Like just it's
the
all
agents
really bad.
agents were dumb too. Like it was literally known so many times, like, oh, you fight an agent, you're gonna die. Only person who was able to was literally Neo. Morpheus fought an agent and literally like had to run away because he fought it to a point, and that's because he was more an advanced red pill. Like he was stronger than most, but even he knew he couldn't fucking take a. But this one's like, oh, everyone's just fighting, willy nilly with the agents, and the agents are not. They can't fire. They are not moving fast. It took them forever to start dodging bullet fire, and it was just so ridiculous, man. Like everything was just wrong about what we're led to believe
Yeah.
the rules of this world,
Yeah.
And it's just even the ending of the movie where they finally do, and then Neo doesn't fly. It's Trinity that's flying.
Well, yeah, they show
Powers
them
are, like,
both flying at the
nerf-
end.
Yes, but why?
I have no idea.
Doesn't make sense. And he's like, oh well, we'll rebuild the world that we want to.
Now
We're talking about rebuilding the Matrix, so
Yeah.
you don't even care about the people outside. Like it doesn't make sense. Like
Why not just
Oh, my
control the
God.
entire Matrix and let everybody free?
exactly, because as
Like,
it
I-
was shown, Neo
if-
can use his abilities outside the Matrix.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Is like that's the super inconsistent part is if you're approaching this now, well, we're going to build the Matrix how we want to rebuild it, then you're agreeing that the Matrix is a decent idea.
Yeah.
Right?
And you didn't kill the analyst, so
If
not
you're
stop
not
the
taking
analysts, like-
everybody out of the Matrix, then what the fuck was the point?
like they're still gonna be used as batteries, right? Or are you just gonna have them plugged for no reason and have them live their lives there till they die? Like, what's the difference? Like, there is nothing.
I don't get it. I really don't get it.
It's a very weird. Like, I wouldn't even say it's a moral question. It's just a plot hole. It's just terrible writing.
Yeah.
And then even my roommate was like, why is everyone here a stormtrooper? Because nobody's
No,
bullets are.
I wrote that shit down. It's the first line I wrote throughout the entire movie, dude. The first line I wrote on my notes was, what the fuck is with the people's aiming? Literally, there's 3 people in that fucking shop at the end of the movie. 3 people in that coffee shop. Not one bullet hits them. And I'm just like, okay. There's 3 people and there's literally fucking 150 cops or agents, whatever the fuck. Nobody gets hit once.
And the problem
What
with
the fuck?
that is even the whole like the dumb idea of bugs. Whenever like the other people in the Jeep are getting like attacked, apparently like 50 people. She's like, I gotta go back in. I was like, why? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And then she literally just appears outside the Jeep with like 2 machine guns and just starts mowing people down. And I was like, why was this important that she do that? Like, were those guns magical or does she have aimbot? Like, is there nothing? Nobody's stopping anybody else from shooting their way out of here? Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, was that supposed to be her big hero move?
Or not just
it's
that, right?
great.
There's that scene where Neo and Trinity are reaching out for each other in the fucking, that kind of shit. And there's like literally like 20, 30 guys holding on to each one of them. Not one of them had a fucking knife.
Oh.
Not one of them's ripping at the fucking belly with a knife trying to tear him apart. Like, what the fuck? Like they're all
Neo
wearing
made-
tactical gear. Not one of them has a fucking knife.
Why?
Like, come
right?
on,
why
man,
this-
like-
nobody can do it. And then it took Smith coming in to save the day. Like, why? Like, our alliance ends here. And I
That's
was like, what
sentience, man.
alliance? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It's so shitty because like the one character I actually agreed with throughout the entire movie was Niobe. It's like, why are we now changing the terms of our agreement? They're living happily in Io. That was literally the deal, was to leave them alone. They've built a fucking city out of it, which we do not get to experience as the audience. And now you're also pulling Neo and Trinity back out of the Matrix. For what reason? For what reason?
Yeah.
He was dead. They literally resurrected him. As far as I'm concerned, they own Neo. They didn't have to let him live. They didn't have to let
That's it.
Trinity live. Like, what the fuck?
Thinly veiled metaphor for Warner Brothers' own Neo. But it's crazy because she never believed, and she even mentioned that again to the audience because we're too dumb to remember, apparently. She's like, I never believed in Morpheus's war. I never believed in the one.
Yeah.
Here you
And-
are.
And here's the
It's
thing,
like,
right? Is if you as a writer are writing like, what was the one part where they're talking about Neo's story within the context of the movie itself, right? And within the context of the Matrix, and they're talking about how they trivialized Neo's story. Well, no, that they didn't really. You did as the writer. Like, you made that conscious decision to make the Matrix trivialize Neo's story. Like, and you did that as a plot device to be able to tell a different story. Like, and that's the thing, right? Is I don't know what kind of message you're trying to send, because it's your own silly writing that you're piggybacking off of. It's just like you as the writer are responsible for how the storyline plays out. And it feels to me that you are sometimes making fun of your own storyline. You're making fun of it, not anybody else. You've written it to be that way. And a good example of that is when they go back to see Niobe for the second time, and she sees the little girl, the daughter of the programmer, right?
Yeah.
And
Jonas, Nick Jonas's wife.
Oh, yeah.
Priyanka Chopra.
Whenever they see her, right?
Grown up.
Niobe, right before that moment, is like, "Shut the fuck up, Neo. You're not important," right?
Yeah.
And then they talk to her. 3 minutes later, "I cannot believe I'm doing this."
Yeah.
3 minutes is all that it took for you to convince Niobe that the last 60 years of her fucking life were stupid and doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely.
What the fuck? That's your writing. That's not the Matrix messing with Niobe's head. That's you.
Yeah.
You came up with
She's a
that.
human. She's on the outside, man.
Like,
and
dude.
Then, to make it worse, when she makes the whole big deal about Bugs and her crew's like, "Oh, Captain, you're grounded. Turn in your keys to your ship, whatever." It's like, "Captain, I'd like to volunteer." She's like, "What do you mean? You're the only one I'm ordering to go to." And I'm like, what? Like,
dude, like, it's so bad.
like, how little confidence do you have in yourself that you're literally changing your thoughts and emotions by the second here?
No.
What do you mean it's all real? The Matrix can't be a real thing. Like, come on, dude. Like, what? Like, she literally, what? I've known you for 30 years. You didn't tell me any of this. And it's like,
Another part that was kind of frustrating
little-
for me. Another part that was really frustrating for me was whenever he first talks to Trinity within the at the shop, right? And then she learns of who he is, and she's like, "Okay, cool." And so the next time he talks to her, they're having the coffee together, and she's like, "Oh, you know, your character Trinity, all this kind of stuff, right? Like, oh my god, I feel like I resonate with her." And then the last time he meets Trinity, right? She admits to not playing the game until later on in the movie. So what was she fucking talking about with the relatability to the character itself if she hadn't actually experienced Trinity before?
Skin deep, not who she was inside. She looked at the game box and
yeah, that's what
oh
it's.
my, right.
Well, I
I
mean,
saw my kids play a couple
she's
times.
like,
you know,
yeah,
whatever.
I'm 50 years old. That's cool. I just play video games. It's only the best video game of all time. I have to play it, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's just so weird, man. Like,
What the kids are doing.
I've
Like,
just,
how dare you use my children to trap me in the life of a suburban mom?
Yeah.
Like, there's something wrong with that.
you see,
You Matrix.
this is
I was
something
like,
else.
ooh.
This is something else that's really fucking infuriating. Got it. I hate, and I know you do too, when movies spoil their own endings.
Yeah,
Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
We saw it in Cowboy Bebop, right? Whenever, of course, you know, we knew it wasn't going to happen that way. But then again, right, as you're watching through Cowboy Bebop, you see that a lot of shit's changed. So when they finally show, like, oh shit, is Vicious about to have his head cut off? But then you remember, oh no, they haven't had the fucking, you know, angel scene where they're gun up and sword down. So we know that didn't happen. So they're in this movie, right? There was this big moment where it's just like, is Trinity going to stay in the Matrix, or is she going to come with Neo? And then she says, you know what? No, I have too much here. I'm going to stay here. She's walking to the door, and you're just like, hold on a second. But in the fucking trailer, you see Neo riding on the back of the fucking motorcycle with Trinity.
Yep. I had a dream.
So you spoiled your own fucking ending. The moment where you had some kind of control over the audience itself by them not knowing where you're going with the storyline. You spoil that because you fucking wanted to show all your action that you had in the entire fucking movie, which was like the second half of the movie, in your trailer. Dude, it's so fucking like,
she rejects it so adamantly too. She's like, "That's for fucking calling me Tiffany, right?" And it's just like
Yeah.
basically like killing the little kids, killing the husband, all that. And it's just like, dude, like calm down, man. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you so impassioned about this particular part of it?
Yeah.
Like, my goodness. Oh my god, like
I
it
did
was
like
just
the
so.
I did like the line from Smith though, that anyone could have been you, whereas I've always been anyone.
Yeah,
I like that
I mean,
line
that
a
was
lot.
cool.
It's a good. It's a
See,
classic Smith line.
It's a classic Smith line, yes, but it's just like, dude, I would have loved to hear
Hugo
Weaving
Weaving,
say it. Yeah, like, I mean, come on, as a CEO of a tech company, like Weaving could have like fucking nailed that, dude, nailed that to the nines.
Yeah.
But it was just so like weird, and then the whole like split the brain thing. I was just like, is she gonna have powers too? Because apparently everyone's getting them.
Yeah.
That weird like, whoa! I was just like, what?
What it is, it's just a bunch of surface visuals.
Yeah.
That's what I got from the entire movie. It's just a whole bunch of skin deep, like hoping you're not going to look
non-binary.
too far into it, and hopefully you just accept it as a Matrix movie. And I refuse to.
Oh, absolutely.
I do not feel like this was a strong continuation into the Matrix trilogy or series.
Yeah, like it wasn't a strong continuation for sure, but it wasn't even like a strong like reboot or rehash, like which what they were kind of implying. And by the end, of course, like I said, it's just a blatant sequel bait. I don't know if it'll actually happen. I don't know if it was supposed to be like a one and done thing, but why wouldn't it be? Weirdly enough, but even like the whole like, oh, look outside and then they're flying together, right? And I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking that that's just like a cover of the song from the original one, but sung by a female. I'm not too
You're
sure
talking
about
about
that.
the Rage Against the Machine
mean,
song?
Yeah, wasn't it?
That's
was it
Rage.
the same song?
Yeah, that's the Rage Against the Machine song.
But
It's
it
Wake
wasn't
Up.
a man singing.
No.
Yeah. No, that's why I was just like, okay, they literally just.
Yeah.
Like I said, everything they could have changed, they changed. So it was just like. I don't understand what their target audience was. Like, I really don't.
Well, it's somewhere in between. I do think that there were a couple things they did get good, which was for me, the idea of a machine war could have been a really fun thing to experience. Cool, but we're not going to get that because it's already beyond that.
Yeah,
The
60 years later.
the Synthients, right, is what they call them.
Yeah.
The
like the Synthians. Yeah, exactly.
The
Fallout.
sentient machines are awesome. Cool. I love that idea. Again, didn't experience much of them whatsoever.
Ujaku.
Do what?
Ujaku.
Oh yeah.
It means peacock, but it's a symbol of rebirth. So
Yeah.
I was just like, I like that, but I'm sure nobody in the like movie ever explained it to anyone.
I love the
It
idea.
would have
of-
been a good way to. It would have been. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good.
It would have
You're
been.
fine.
It would have been a good way to kind of like just throw it in there to the audience. Like his name is Kujaku. Well, Kujaku. It's a symbol, meaning peacock, meaning rebirth, and it's like, what? Oh, cool. Like I'm reborn. I get it.
I like the way they handled Morpheus, at least in the real world, not with choice of actor. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't the worst part of the movie for sure, but I just feel like they could have gone a much different route. I'm not sure why no one even mentioned anything to Lawrence Fishburne, unless they were just set on going 60 years in the future from the very beginning, which again, I don't understand.
No, that was just again my poor decision. See the problem thing was like, oh, he wasn't even supposed to be just Morpheus. It was supposed to be like a blending of him and Smith, and then they just never talk about that.
Yeah.
What do you not have like some sort of beacon to the other Smith if you're part of the same thing? Like it just.
I don't know.
I was waiting for like some sort of like double cross or something. It's like, remember Neo, I'm also Smith, and it's like, something, and no, there's
Nothing
like
ever
zero
came from
payoff to that. Yeah, there's no payoff to that at all.
But they did. One of the things they do actually set up really well is literally bringing Smith to the real world. I mean, now that they've pulled programs out, Smith could literally come out. Don't get me wrong. There are some things in here that have really cool setups and really cool ideas that they could go off of. But again, we don't see any of that in this movie. All we see is surface level ideas and nothing really to go off of. Another thing that I think that they did well.
Man. It's the hanging banana when you're trying to reach for it.
Yeah. Another thing I think they did really well was the ending scene, like the chase scene. There was some really cool stuff in that. People falling from buildings and all that. I think that they handled that ending chase really. It was the most Matrix thing about the actual movie, in my opinion.
About like on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna rely on, or if
You like motorcycles.
if you think Keanu Reeves has hit the point where he can't really perform the action the way he used to, and your answer to that is to give him extra physical abilities like, force beams and shit like that, just utilize that. Just take it to the max, right? Like, just go that route. He's gone far beyond that of physical limitations. Now he can affect the area around you, that kind of shit. Cool. Yeah, I definitely noticed in this movie that Keanu Reeves is not the Keanu Reeves from the original Matrix, and nor should he be. He's 20 years older. So, I mean, I don't really know what to say there, but
it's crazy that you say that, because they made like such a big deal with like the promotional material about keeping like the John Wick haircut. And again, I don't know
why they had to do that.
Between the two filming, I don't know why it was like that, but then literally show him in like the real world shaved. But clearly it didn't matter. No. So I don't understand why. And then when he went back into the Matrix, he had it again. Like, I just
I really like my long hair.
Yeah, and have you ever seen that movie Push with Chris Evans, like with the whole like psychics?
Yes, I have. Yeah, it's a cool movie.
Okay, the way that they block bullets and their projection of outward force was done so much better.
Yeah,
that movie is from like 2009.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie either. It's actually pretty good.
It's not. It was really cool. But like, yeah, the whole thing with them, the effects to what it could have looked like and what it did look like was just it was just insane, man.
It's pretty disappointing. There were a lot of issues with the movie, like mistakes. The one I mentioned earlier with the blood in the mouth, a few more. There was also one at the end where they showed the helicopter shooting rockets, and of course 2 rockets hit 2 cars, and then 2 other random cars explode for seemingly no reason. No rockets touch them. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of those.
So hard at that part because he takes the rocket and like throws it at the other one. And the other one's just like, okay, fuck it. So he starts shooting at them again. And I was just like, yeah, dude, there was another helicopter here the whole time. Like, what do you mean? Like, it was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you just shoot at their feet and like cause them to fall through the floor, right? Like, really, he's stopping the bullets aimed at him. I don't know. It was nonsensical in the worst way.
The funny part is, right? Like, why would you? This is something I thought of after, sitting and actually kind of thinking about the movie. Why would you go through so much trouble of recasting the original cast if you're going to change your characters so much? Like, it didn't have to be Keanu Reeves. It didn't even have to be the same Neo character. It could have been somebody completely fresh. Could have been Bugs. Like, you could have gone a completely different route with it. But instead, you went directly with Keanu Reeves again for, that easy piggyback money. People are going to watch it. But why? Like, why would you go that route if you were just going to change everybody up so much? And then, of course, you leave some people out.
It's crazy, too, because it just goes to show that, according to them, the casting didn't matter, but it mattered.
Yeah.
But why did you do that unless you had to portray these characters a certain way? And again, like you said, like, it could have just been, oh, this is the next one, this is the next incarnation of the Matrix.
Yeah.
You didn't even have to have anything to do with the first one. You could have just mentioned, like, oh, Neo fought for our peace, that's it, this is a whole new adventure, yada yada yada. Which begs the question, what was that original script that Warner Brothers wanted to produce before the Wachowski came and took over it? Because apparently they didn't like it, that's why they changed it to have all these different inclusions.
They should have let them do it.
I don't know if it's like the scope of what they directed just changed because outside progression and social characteristics of them as people, but I guess they're just not shy about showing it through their works.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I just think if they would have presented this movie as that, it would have been a lot easier to understand that what they're trying to convey to the audience.
Yeah.
Versus a very thinly veiled example of basically going off the rails storyline wise, and then just like you said, it's hard to accept this as a Matrix movie because at the end of the day, I didn't feel like it was that. I mean, best of the worst,
Yeah.
As much as I liked Neil Patrick Harris's performance, I felt like his character
was so fucking annoying.
Yeah, it was just kind of weird, and it was too obvious. That
I mean, there was even a line that he said, like, "Man, women used to be so much easier to control." That right there came straight out of real life.
Yeah, we get it. Right? And he even says it. No, he says like the whole sheeple thing, like, "Oh, you're not woke enough," and all that. And I was just like, "Calm down, man."
That's pretty
The
bad.
blue rimmed glasses and the whole deja vu thing, using that like over and over again. Um, I'll
I
give it to Jonathan Groff, I guess.
Okay,
Just
I was gonna
because
say the only two people I can really think of is either him or Bugs. For
Yeah.
the most part, she didn't deviate in her motivations.
Yeah,
Her motivations
like,
didn't make any sense, but her character stuck true to it. Those are the only two I can really think of, and it's kind of sad to say that of all the characters in the movie, the two that I hated the most were Neo and Trinity.
absolutely. And it's really hard to say that as a fan of
Yeah.
The Matrix and Keanu Reeves. It's just like, man, was it a passion product? Did you feel like, oh, you owed it for giving them like that elevation to your career at the time that you chose to do this? Don't get me wrong, Keanu Reeves is like a fucking dandy person in real life. But this is kind of stuff that he would say like into public eye. But it's weird to see that coming through the character that you know for so long. Then Trinity just really just felt like honestly a prop the whole time until she's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not Tiffany. Oh, comes the palm strike and the kick that I'm known for, little heel." But no, like yeah, it's my opinion. I think the only choice to give MVP to is Jonathan Groff Smith.
Yeah. And it's not in no way, shape, or form is this one of those super proud to be MVP kind of moments, but
Yeah.
hey,
Best of
is
best
a
of a
win.
bad bunch, man. Yeah.
if I had to rate it, the more and more I think about it, I lean more to a 3 than I do a 4. Originally, I thought it was a 4, but for my official rating, I'm going to give it a 3. I think there's just so many things going on without anything really going on. There's the most limited storyline that's happening I've ever seen in a movie that took place over the course of 2.5 hours. It just nothing happened. And this is, have you ever seen The Assassination of Jesse James? That is like the slowest movie you'll ever watch. But I would prefer to watch that 100 times before I watch this again. And this one, like, there's no motivations. There's no real clear motivations. They're completely going back on every decision that was made in the past movies. They're making fun of their own content.
Yeah.
All the flashbacks is just a clear disregard for the audience and their time. Without any flashbacks, this movie would have been like an hour and 50 minutes. You know what I mean? A decently length movie. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, we didn't get that. But yeah, wasting time. It's just, it's true. It literally is just a waste of time. That's how I felt. I felt like the fighting was just not there, not up to par whatsoever. The acting was semi decent. Jonathan Groff was great. Neil Patrick Harris is always cool, but the character itself was pretty fucking frustrating. But just in general, I don't feel like it was a Matrix movie. I feel like it fell short for sure.
To try and either rehash or continue a storyline, for it to fall so far off the grid and just like you said, muddled action, bad storytelling, the writing, casting choices, I wouldn't feel comfortable giving it anything above a 3. But to me, it'd probably be leaning more of a 2.5, and not even like you said the good performances of Groff or Patrick. It's just it's not enough to salvage a movie whenever your main character or characters in this case are so underutilized and just so just poorly received, man. Like it's just I never once felt immersed in it, and it's just constantly like, one, it was laughable with how badly they were trying to like make fun of themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, just it's a constant insult to the characters and the storyline itself whenever you have to constantly be showed flashbacks of things again and again that just happened, or like, oh, do you remember this? Do you remember this? Do you remember this? Like,
Yeah. It reminded me of that South Park
God.
episode, The Member Berries.
I love when Neo saved the planet. Like, that was crazy. Like, my God. Remember the Matrix?
Remember the
Remember the
Matrix?
Matrix.
Remember Agent Smith? Oh, I remember Agent
Yeah.
Smith.
Remember when he was the one I love?
Oh,
I
man.
don't know.
Remember
Like
the
oh,
Oracle?
Right?
It's
Yeah,
literally
they have
it
a
was
flashback
every
to the
single time they had a
Oracle.
flashback, dude. Every time I was like, this is so much, man. Like, we've seen it. Stop.
Yeah, no, exactly. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this content, consider liking the video. Also, make sure you're subscribed to be considered in our giveaways. We'll hold them routinely as our subscriber goals are met. This has been The Shit Take. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy, and we hope to see you next time.